If you told me that this would have been the result, an overtime game, both teams get a point, Detroit edges out the Vancouver Canucks with a penalty shot, I wouldn't be too upset. Like, if you had told me that was the result last night, obviously the Canucks are my favorite team, the Red Wings are my third favorite team, so I like both of these squads enough to go out there and wish peace in a game like this. But when you have an unstoppable force and an immovable wall, what ends up happening? When you have the best third period team in the NHL, they're like 20-something, 0-1 when leading after 2 periods, going up against the team with the second most third period comebacks in the NHL. What ends up happening? Well, you end up with Vancouver versus Detroit. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't wake up early enough to watch this first period. All I'm going off of is just the goal that was scored. It's Lucas Raymond who gets things going, makes it 1-0 off of just a terrible defensive play by Tyler Myers. He absolutely gets walked. Like, Raymond is coming down the left side, he dekes over to the backhand, forces himself around Myers in front, and he gets one by Casey DeSmith. Myers was an absolute turnstile on that goal, and it was not pretty. For all the good that Tyler Myers is able to pop out once in a while, you get moments like this, where he is absolutely the worst player on the ice, and it doesn't look good for the highlight reel. Lucas Raymond, of course, though, dipsy-doodling and drifting around the pylon that is Tyler Myers, makes it look easy as he forces the Wings up on the board 1-0. In the second period, which is when I actually started to watch, you had yourselves the tying goal scored by Nils Hoglander. It's a very nice play where Pettersson plays it over to Hronek, he takes the shot, and it is tipped in by Hoglander. You had Jake Walman accidentally trip Alex Lyon on this play, which is why Lyon was pretty frustrated. He was calling for a penalty or a goalie interference or something off of this goal, but nothing ended up happening. It was Walman, friendly fire, 1-1 game just a few minutes in, but then we have ourselves what is probably the biggest dramatic turn of events in this game, as Nikita Zadorov makes a bad hit on Lucas Raymond. He hits him up high, gets him smack dab in the jaw. It's kind of an awkward hit, like the way Raymond is leaning and the way Zadorov is facing. It kind of looks like Zadorov was trying to go hip on hip, but he just kind of missed and ended up getting Raymond with a headshot. And it was a really unfortunate play where you could see Raymond, the way he recoiled in pain after getting hit like he did, the way he was kind of kneeling on the ice, it was a very unfortunate sight to see. Zadorov gets the 5-minute major, so the Canucks have a pretty big penalty to kill. And they actually end up doing it. The Canucks had the 5-minute major. They also had another 2-minute minor attached at the end of it because Filip Hronek ended up like baseball swinging the puck at Dylan Larkin's head. There was actually 9 seconds of 5-on-3, wherein the Canucks were able to kill everything off. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, the Red Wings, you can't be going out there and doing this. I get it, the Wings won, but it was all doom and gloom in the Red Wings fandom once the Wings ended up not capitalizing at all on a 7-minute power play, pretty much. The 5-minute major and the extra 2, they just did not get anything going, aside from Patty Kane making things look a little bit dangerous. By the way, yeah, he's back in the lineup today, and it gets even more doom and gloom after the power play expires because you had Filip Hronek exiting the box and getting a breakaway pass from Ilya Mikheyev. He comes right in, dekes forehand, forehand, and he scores. Beautiful goal to give the Canucks the lead after a whole bunch of momentum swung their way. Against his former team, it's Filip Hronek who has 2 points in the game now with this breakaway goal. Give it just a few minutes, and Hronek gets a 3rd point on an Elias Pettersson chance. The puck goes off the end boards, it bounces off to the side, and Pettersson is right there to put the rebound by Lyon. The Canucks have a 3-1 lead in the second period after the Wings fail to get the lead on their own 7-minute power play. The end of the second saw some rough stuff, big physicality. Ian Cole and Alex DeBrincat had a fight, which was honestly pretty lopsided. When they say pick on somebody your own size, yeah, Alex DeBrincat probably could have used that advice, but he tried, so I'll give him props for that. Big fight for Ian Cole, though. He just kind of took it to DeBrincat. And the Canucks get themselves a late power play at the end of the second. They cannot score, but it looks pretty alright. In the third period, though, things get very interesting. As we had said, the Canucks had this godly record of all of these wins in games where they're leading after 2. But the Red Wings have the second most third-period comebacks in the NHL, just behind the Anaheim Ducks. So you have two titans of these statistical categories going to work here. What's going to end up happening? Well, the Canucks take an early penalty. It's Nils Hoglander to the box, and the Wings get a goal. It's Daniel Sprong who is able to put it by and give that Wings a 1-goal deficit. Good momentum early on for Detroit at the start of the third period. And then you have yourselves Rasmussen, who tips in a shot, who makes it 3-3 just a few minutes later. Right under the bar after a long shot from Walman, it's now a tie game. And with 12 minutes to go, I'm kind of thinking, okay, the Wings are putting themselves in a really good chance to upset Vancouver and that record here, because the Canucks have not had a regulation loss after leading at the start of the second the whole season. They've had like 20-something games where they came into the third with the lead, and they've only lost once, and that was in a shootout. So are the Red Wings going to pull off some more of that magic? Well, the game actually doesn't have a goal towards the final 12 minutes of this third period, but there are a lot of shenanigans. There's a Perron penalty on Ian Cole. The Canucks power play looks good on this, but they can't score. It had a lot of rough stuff going on. There was a Teddy Bluger offside call, which resulted in a huge kerfuffle. It ended up with 4 players going to the penalty box, 2 Wings and 2 Canucks. There was a very particular moment with Moritz Seider and Dakota Joshua that seemed to have been very heated. But with a few minutes to go, honestly, it looked like both of these teams were just kind of playing for overtime. The chances weren't really too high danger. They were just kind of coasting along. And then once overtime began, that's where things got weird. Like, Elias Pettersson, in overtime, ends up chasing Lucas Raymond around the Red Wings net, and he gets a little physical with Raymond in the corner and the half-boards there. Tries to force that turnover, but Petey just has not been the most powerful skater this season, and he ends up falling himself on this play. The Wings end up forcing a breakaway to Jake Walman, and he's coming in all alone until Quinn Hughes cross-checks him from behind, and the refs deem that as a penalty shot-worthy affair. Jake Walman gets a penalty shot in overtime, and he scores. Comes right in, is not looking up, he's got his head down the whole way so Casey DeSmith can't read the guy's eyes. Walman then goes far side, scores the goal, hits the gritty, and Quinn Hughes is looking really sad on the bench. He's kind of like hitting his stick on there, and the Canucks end up dropping yet another extra time game after leading at the start of the third period. Detroit seals the deal on yet another comeback victory, and now for the Vancouver Canucks, they have a chance to lose their first place spot in the NHL. The Bruins and the Capitals are playing right now. If Boston gets 2 points, then hey, guess what? They overtake Vancouver with the same amount of games played. But for Vancouver, ultimately, in this game, they straight up just choked it away. Like, we're not used to saying that. The Vancouver Canucks haven't choked many games this year. The ones that they did lose usually, like, are already lost games before you even recognize the L come to fruition. Like, the game against Boston, 2-0 after 2 shorthanded goals, you know they were going to lose that. But for choking things away, you could really only say they choked 2 games, and that was the Columbus game and the shootout, which was fine considering their travel circumstances during that day. And then this one against Detroit, where they had all the momentum. The Wings couldn't score on a 7-minute power play, and the Canucks did, twice immediately after. But the third period seemed to have been their downfall, which is not something we've seen often this year. And they end up losing a point in extra time because of it. You could say Pettersson and Hughes kind of had themselves some odd moments in this one, especially towards the end. I have no idea what Pettersson was trying to accomplish with that forechecking. It was just not going to work on a guy like Lucas Raymond. And Quinn Hughes, how do you let Jake Walman, of all people, the defenseman, get the breakaway? I mean, you could say the Canucks have had their own rights pulling strings like that, considering the JT Miller to Quinn Hughes overtime winner in November, which saw exactly the same scenario happen. But still, the Canucks, you should be noticing when your tricks are being used against you. It doesn't end up working here today as they drop this decision. And I'm just thinking here that the Vancouver Canucks, for everybody's sake, stop playing the games at 10 a.m., dude. I know the NHL's not going to listen to me. They've got another one coming up tomorrow against the Washington Capitals, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, another early game, another early start for me making weird videos at the beginning of the day is not going to be fun. But to the Wings, GG's, they had themselves a pretty good comeback victory in this one. The Canucks choked it away. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Jake Walman, Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, and everything in between. I hope you enjoyed this video. And Bye.